Namaste. Nepal is a beautiful country of diverse population, diverse culture, arts, customs, and traditions. Nepal is where kids swing high on cliffs with Himalayan mountains as the backdrop. This is where people still drink water from the same spring for centuries, and this is where people still live in tiny settlings miles and days away from the nearest modern civilization, connected only by trails. Nepal is where the boat of gods touches the sky, high above the bustling clouds, and where people's daily chores are just another day. And this is where the yaks and the farmers work together in a symbiotic relationship. When the tectonic plates collided after crossing the Great Tethys millions of years ago, the Great Himalayas was born. Now snow-capped and ever-inspiring the millions of floras and faunas living under its shelter. Then civilization flourished, agriculture was invented, and somewhere high above the clouds, farmers began to preserve the yak milk that would otherwise go bad in the summer in a form of a cheese that would last a long, long time. And they used to eat them just because they need to. Then one fine day, about 15 years ago, two friends from Nepal, Suman and Nishes, discovered that this hard cheese, is loved by dogs, especially the American dogs, and more specifically, Nishesh's dog Chaos. After their much research that this could be a viable product in the American market, I joined the team in 2007 to create the Himalayan Corporation. Our father Ramdai brought along about 20 kilos of chews in the summer of 2007, and we had a $15 table at a local dog park that fetched our first sales of $700. Our brand was in creation, and we filed for a trademark immediately, the Himalayan Dog Chew. I immediately called our father in Nepal and placed an order of 200 kilos of chews. He asked, "Son, how far are we going to go with this business?" And then I said, "All the way, Dad. We are all in." And then he said, "Son, we've been farmers all our life. That means we will need to change and improve the lives of lives of the farmers in Nepal." So these words from our father has become our mantra behind our vision and the mission. And thus the game began. So Himalayan's first sale from Nepal to the US culminated into sales into Canada, and we were doubling our sales every year since 2010. Then we started selling them in Japan and then in Korea, and then we had to start a subsidiary in the UK and the EU to be able to sell everywhere in the Eurozone, as well as in Australia and New Zealand. And now our sales are also in some parts of Mexico, Brazil, South Africa, and the UAE. So Himalayan products are now sold in over 10,000 independent retailers all over the world, as well as several regional and national chains such as Petco and PetSmart. Currently, our annual sales is around $20 million a year. However, our real work was in Nepal. So our program started in the northeastern corner of Nepal called Taple Zung, where we started procuring cheese from the farmers. Then we started a small production facility in this is Ilam and Pastar, and then we had a collection center in Jhapa and Kathmandu. Slowly, the supply started to come in from the districts such as Kavre, Sindhupalchok, Dolokha, Sankhwasabha, Palpa, Gorkha, Dhading, Makwanpur, and as far west as in this is Dolpa, the largest district in Nepal. So what began as a straightforward family venture has now turned into a complex supply chain consisting of over 8,000 farmers and about 300 small to medium cheese production plants and two large cheese manufacturing units and a central processing unit in Kathmandu. So with such success and opportunity, the government of Nepal declared rebates of any interest of the loans to the farmers, where the current interest rates are 12 to 24%. And we have also partnered with a local bank that have authorized to issue $15 million loan to our local farmers at little or no collateral. And access to these financial instruments were non-existent to the farmers in the past. So when the supply exceeded around 100,000 kilos, the farmers and the chew producing outlets were creating a new problem: butter. For every kilo of chew produced, a kilo of butter was also being produced. But with every challenge, we saw opportunities and decided that we buy this butter that were otherwise not selling. So we created a new brand called Manaram Pure Cow Ghee in Nepal to become the second largest producer of butter. It's a clarified butter known as ghee, second only to the government-owned Dairy Development Corporation. So while we purchase both the chews and the butter, farmers are now able to return their investment in less than a year, earning an average of $2,000 per year with only 2 yaks or cows, which is twice the national average, and they continue to earn throughout the life of the cow and the yak for at least 6 years. But we decided that our greatest threat was and still is poverty. And we all must get together to alleviate the lives of people by defeating this common enemy. So we knew we had to bring innovative methods and idea to bring all stakeholders into action. So the government declared a program to make Nepal an independent, a milk independent nation by 2020, where the policies are to offer 50% rebates on cow insurance, 2% rebates on dairy export, and removed all tax liabilities with regards to the dairy industry. Nepal's total worldwide export is around $700 million, of which $90 million is to the US. Our current Himalayan Dog Chew export to the world is $7 million, which is about 1% of the total worldwide export from Nepal and nearly 8% of the American exports. Therefore, Himalayan Dog Chew and everything surrounding Himalayan Dog Chew in Nepal have become an economic indicator of the country. So to improve the livelihood of the farmers, the government of Nepal have recognized this category of dairy industry a pivotal program, and hence are building roads and bridges for easy access to milk, chew, and butter production and supply, which was only possible before on trails via horseback, a yak back, or a man back, or even a child back. Yeah, this is very common in Nepal. So currently there are works underway in Nepal to build roads and bridges in Ilam about 95 kilometers, in Sankosab and Thankuta about 100 kilometers. So in 2012, we started a program in the name of our parents, the Manaram Foundation, to ensure that every child are learning at school, and at least they are going to school, and that they are not carrying loads for labor. So there are now more girls in the region attending schools than ever before in the history, where this is the region where farmers were only able to afford to send boys to school. So the education of girls have empowered the women of Nepal, which have yielded more jobs for them, and the best of all, have shielded them from any sex trades. So for the same, we distributed notebooks and pens to over 24,000 students in the region, over 1,000 solar lamps, and established 135 libraries in 75 communities in Nepal. In the Eastern culture, we believe in Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which means that the entire world is one family. And if we were to protect our family, we must protect the interest of our children today. Only then the humanity is able to sustain. Children are our future. We, as a community and a nation, must invest in their preparation for tomorrow in the fields of education, health, environment, economics, and infrastructure. And I'm privileged and proud how a chew discovered in Nepal is able to entertain dogs all over the world and in America while improving the lives of farmers and their children and eventually enrich a nation. Thank you and namaste.